Welcome to my talk. I'm amazed there is so many people in this room because I know I'm talking next to Matt. So thank you all for joining me, and welcome to this deep dive to JobRunr. So what is JobRunr? It's an open source library. You can find it on GitHub, of course, and I think it's the ultimate library for background job processing in Java. It's distributed, backed by persistent storage, and you can use it, of course, commercially. Regarding the agenda, I'm going to talk about who I am, about who you guys are, then how it all started, and then, of course, talk is cheap. You guys want to see code. Next, we'll go in some of the deep internals of JobRunr. We'll look where JobRunr is today and into the future. There is a Q&A session, and I'll be eating my own dog food. I did create a poll about that. The eating my own dog food, I refer to doing a live coding session. So I have the answers here. Let's see what it is. But first, who am I? I'm a developer like you guys. Tinkerer also. I like to play with Home Assistant. I've got 3 nice kids. I'm living in Belgium. I created JobRunr, and I was born in the right country because we have plenty of beers. I think we have more beers than we have citizens in Belgium. So that's a great place to be. So, everybody, hands in the air. Are you enjoying Spring I.O.? Yeah, okay. Is there anybody working for Facebook, LinkedIn, or Netflix? Okay, no, that means that you've read the abstract. That's good for me. Is there already somebody using JobRunr for a project? No? Oh, not yet. Okay. And then about the poll. Presentation first or live coding first? I'll refresh it now. We have 71 responses. And presentation first won, what amazed me. So. Okay. Sorry? Yeah, and I'm also lucky because it gave me some stress at least to do all the live coding. I prepared a little bit more, but it will go fine, no worries. So then, how it all started. 3 years ago, I got a new assignment, so I'm a contractor, and they told me, yeah, we have this greenfield project to work on. And you see the word greenfield project surrounded with quotes. It was in fintech. We're only working for it on a year, and it's an e-invoicing platform. So we created middleware. It was a gateway to the PEPL network. And what is all of this? What is PEPL? Yeah, it allows you to send invoices electronically, and it tries to take away all the paper. Of course, fintech, banks, it's still XML. And it was a microservice party. There were a lot of RESTful microservices on Google Cloud. It was an asynchronous API for the customers. So the first call from the customer saved the XML document and the invoice. Then an event was put on PubSub. For further processing, and afterwards all the other communication was synchronous using RESTful APIs, also the external APIs, and the goal was to process millions of documents per day. Yet when I joined, we only did not a lot of documents, 100,000 documents a month, but the team had one of the greatest CI/CD pipeline I've ever seen. Each feature branch was automatically in your environment, so they did a great job on that. But the microservices thing, it was, not always that, I don't know. They didn't implement it the right way, to be honest. Processing was not retired on failure. There wasn't any monitoring. So it meant that invoices got lost, messages just accumulated on the dead letter queue of PubSub, and it's not a lot of fun to have a customer calling, hey, why didn't my invoice get paid? So logging was also done without correlation ID. It was really hard in the beginning. And I'm gonna say perhaps something controversial, but I'm also not a big fan of microservices just to do microservices. In this project, they had 8 different microservices, and adding a field to the invoice, we needed to add it in 5 different places. It's the biggest, the fastest way to have code duplication sometimes in my eyes. I'm more a fan of modular monolith and clean code, but this is a totally different topic. But after that, my 2-3 weeks there, this was the greenfield project I was thinking of, but I've more felt like like this. I considered a career switch, coding HTML for food, perhaps, but yeah, no, that's not who I am. So yeah, I looked into different solutions. They are either vendor-specific. We were on Google Cloud, so it meant we should go for Google Cloud solutions, or on Azure, on Microsoft, AWS, you have other solutions for it. But we didn't want to tie ourselves so to one cloud. Or they require extra infrastructure, like Apache Kafka, Apache Hadoop, Spark. They're all great, but you need file systems and blah, blah, blah. And in my eyes, there was not an open source one-stop shop that is really easy to use, and I mean developer-friendly, distributed by default, that can use your existing infrastructure, that includes monitoring, and that retries failed jobs automatically. And I really believe, that we're not all working for Facebook, LinkedIn, or Netflix, and that we need to process petabytes of data per day, or is it hour? But I do think that we sometimes need to solve some complex business processes with a moderate amount of data. And I'm talking about gigabytes, terabytes per day, per hour. We also don't need extra infrastructure just to run some background jobs. Let's KISS, keep it simple and stupid, not literally, and reuse proven technology like SQL and NoSQL databases. I think, and I believe, it should be easy to create jobs, and they should run fast. And I don't want to be bugged by a job that fails because of some other microservice that we're dependent on fails. I would want it to retry automatically and only be bothered with it if they don't succeed after a while. I also believe we should have instant insights on how these jobs are doing. And such a tool should be self-maintaining and be plug and play in my eyes. And these are the beliefs when I started to work on JobRunr, and I still keep myself on to each day when I work on it. So I thought, okay, let's try to solve this. And yeah, I worked on it in just when the pandemic started. I started working on it almost full time. And yeah, I wanted it to be simple, so you can use any Java 8 lambda to create a background job. As it is saved to the database, it means that we have a central point where we can fetch all the jobs and we can distribute them. They use the existing infrastructure. It's embeddable. Just add one jar and you're set to go. It retries automatically and there is monitoring in it. So, how would you use it? Yeah, you probably saw it already on the flyer outside. BackgroundJob.enqueue and a lambda. And of course, there is the dashboard that comes with it. And this is the dashboard where you can see the amount of jobs that succeed or fail every 15 seconds, where you can go to all the succeeded, the failed jobs, but we're getting back to that later. So, we're all technical here. Talk is cheap. Show me the code. And I'll promise if there's time left, we do some live coding. What we do here is we just create a job using your existing services you already have, your Spring services. You don't need to change them to use JobRunner. I don't want my code always to be dependent on my other libraries. If you guys are not happy with JobRunner, you could easily switch, because you don't need to depend on any interface or anything. For the people that were paying attention, the BackgroundJob.enqueue, it's a static method. I added it for readability. Of course, you can inject a job scheduler, and it has all the exact same methods that you have on the BackgroundJob class. I try to integrate well with the Spring ecosystem, of course. So what you can do is, using Spring Data, you just get a stream of all the users. And what this method does, for each item in that stream, you can then, in this example, send a mail, for example. And the good thing about this is that JobRunner automatically batches all the jobs to the database, so it goes really fast. But sometimes you don't need to run a job immediately. What if you want to run a job after 24 hours or at a certain moment? Using the schedule API, you can say, I want to run it tomorrow, any instant, any date, time, and pass in again the same lambda. In the beginning, these two arguments were the other way around, but then I got some feedback from the Kotlin community, and they asked, hey, can you switch these arguments, because then it's a lot nicer in Kotlin. So JobRunner now also supports Kotlin out of the box. And then, what if you need to do something every day? Yeah, just again, schedule recurrently, and then there is the cron class that makes cron a little bit easier to read, because to be honest, I find cron always really hard to read. Here you can pass a string, or like here, the cron.daily, and in this case, it will run at midnight each day. And all the recurring jobs are automatically also available in the dashboard, where you can trigger them for testing purposes, for example, immediately. And you can also see when the next run is of that job. And I was talking about the failed invoices before. I don't want to have customers on the call saying, hey, my invoice isn't paid or my thing didn't work out. That's why there is the dashboard where you can just click on all the failed jobs, where you will find all the failed jobs. And you instantly get the exception why that job failed. By default, JobRunner will retry a job 10 times with an exponential back-off policy. So in the beginning, it almost reschedules the job immediately, but after a while, it's a half an hour, and more. But let's say that you have a job, you don't want to retry that often, then you can just use the @job annotation, where you put the name for the job, which will be then visible also in the dashboard, and the amount of retries that you want. That's already the code. Now we're going deep dive. How does this all work? Because there's some magic going on, and I completely agree on that. We'll get later on to that. But by default, there is also an integration with Spring Boot. So if you add the Spring Boot starter jar, you can only schedule jobs. You can schedule jobs, but the dashboard and the BackgroundJobServer won't be enabled by default, because it doesn't make sense that your front end starts processing jobs. So you just it's disabled. But what happens is when you create a job, instantly it's saved to the storage system and returned to the caller. So this part should be as fast as possible. And next, you can have 1 to 10 to I don't know how many servers that query the storage system and fetch the jobs that are created, and they start processing them. Once the job processed, either it succeeded or failed, the result is saved into the storage system, and the next batch of jobs is taken. But how does this all happen? And now we're going really deep into Java and bytecode. Anybody knows ASM, the library ASM? Yeah. So, in fact, I think everybody here in the room is using it, probably without knowing, because it's often packaged also inside Spring and Hibernate, if I'm not mistaken. And what you see here on the BackgroundJob.enqueue, the system.out.println, it's in fact translated to this class, to this bytecode. And what you see here, you see a get static. So what it means that we want to get the out of the system, the out field of the system class. Then we put the string on the stack, and then this is the interesting part, the invoke virtual. So invoke virtual means that that's in fact the lambda that you want to have, that what needs to be executed. That's the part what JobRunr is interested in. And if you do use your own service, it's almost identical. Again, we need the field, the test service in this case, some string that's put on the stack, a constant. We want to have instant.now, the invoke static, so we want the current time, and then again the invoke virtual. And then, isn't this dangerous? In the beginning, when I created JobRunr, I put it on Reddit, and I found there's somebody who responded with this quote: "Your library may be nice at first glance, but there's so much black magic going on that just should never be relied upon." And I hear it, and I understand his concern, but I try to mitigate it as much as possible. And I'm quite sure it's okay, because you have 3 types of compatibility in Java, and this comes from Oracle and before Sun. Source compatibility, binary compatibility, and behavior compatibility. And JobRunr is inside the binary compatibility, and this is defined in the Java language specification. And the GCP process makes sure that we can still run jars that are compiled with Java 1.1 on the most recent JDK 17 that's out. Also, I was contacted by Oracle, and I participate in the quality outreach program. That means that they sent me emails about upcoming changes to the JDK, and I then test also with that new JDK. And this helps us both, because this way I find out if my library breaks early on, and they also get feedback that they perhaps may have broken something. So there's a bunch of open source projects that all are participating in this. And I'm a lazy guy. I try to automate as much as possible. And thanks to the great guys from Test Containers, I compile the usage of JobRunr in different GVMs. So you can see here all the different Docker containers: adopt OpenJDK 8, 11, 14, 17, 18, GraalVM. And this makes sure that the stuff keeps on working. So I'm quite comfortable with it, but even then, with JobRunr 4, I added something new. It's the job request and job request handler. And it follows a little bit the command handler pattern. So that means that, let's go to an example again. If you want to launch a job, and in this case you do depend on JobRunr though, you just implement an interface. And here for an email, you say implement a job request. And there is one important method that you then need to implement. It's the handler that will process this job. And also notice the toString method here. I'll get back to it. It makes the input readable. Then this is the handler, and of course it will be automatically fetched from the IOC container. So if the handler is available, known as a component or a service in Spring, JobRunr will fetch it from there. And then what you just want to do, you want to create a message, send it, and also you see the add job annotation again. And because I put %0, it's like the string.format everybody knows, it will nicely format the input message, so the the request that we got in. And in the dashboard, you will see sending email to regarding subject. And how do you use this then? BackgroundJob.request, and then .enqueue. Also, again, one line, and then all the you make your request object, and you pass it on, and JobRunner makes sure it's executed. So this is how I know what job needs to happen. Next is using either JSON, Jackson, or JSON. It is translated to readable JSON. So here you see a class name. That's the class that needs to happen, the field, the method, and any parameters you provided. This is another example. They're all coming from the test. So I have a test service. I do some work with a path, file path, and then and the JSON unit ignore is because I use temporary paths and blah, blah, they changed. So this is how it's saved inside your database or NoSQL database. On why JSON? Again, I like simple things. It's readable, it's debuggable, and it makes my life easier in the dashboard because I can just use the existing JSON. After that it's converted to JSON, I store it in the database or in NoSQL. And what I do, and this is code copied from JobRunner. First, I take also the MDC context, because you might have a correlation ID that you got when your request comes in, and you want to persist it through the complete life cycle of your workflow. So that way, also, when you log something inside a job, your correlation ID will automatically be taken over. The filters, that's some advanced stuff. It's all, you can find everything on the website. And then you see the storage provider.save job method. This is where it's actually persisted. Jobs have IDs. If a job with the same ID already exists, then it's skipped. You can use it, for example, to pull GMS messages, and if you have GMS messages, you're listening on 2 nodes on those GMS messages, you only want to process once, pass the correlation ID of the GMS messages as the job ID, and JobRunner will make sure that it's only processed once, otherwise it will automatically generate an ID. And these are all the different databases JobRunner supports. So DocumentDB from Amazon, Elasticsearch, Mongo, Redis is still in beta, and the great news is I'm working with the guys from Redis to look at it together, so it's awesome, so happy. And of course, all the different SQL databases. Then the job is read from the database, so every 15 seconds, JobRunner tries to take some jobs and process them. And by default, it will look at your CPU, how many cores you have, and try to optimize it completely to the amount of cores. And it will, like when you create, there are people doing crazy stuff with JobRunner, creating millions of jobs, and yeah, it will only take like 80 jobs and process them, and then the next 80 and the next 80 and so on. Next, I want to make sure that the job is only processed on one BackgroundJobServer. And how do I do that? Easy, optimistic locking. So the first node or the first BackgroundJobServer that can change the state to processing and persist it like that wins and can continue processing the job. Looking at the time, okay. Then the actual processing happens. So how does that work? Here we can see that method again, update job state to processing. If that returns true, it means the optimistic locking succeeded, then it can process, and then the actual job is run. If also that succeeds, then the job is again updated to succeeded, and it's done for this job, but there are things that can go wrong. The job can be deleted while be processing. Yeah, then there's nothing left to be done anymore. So okay, we return. Also, you might redeploy. Yeah, then in that case, the server stopped. The job is put in failed state. And the next time your server starts, JobRunner will automatically retry and continue processing these jobs. The job method may not be found anymore. You did a change to your code, it's not backwards compatible anymore, then this is also logged. And then any exception from your code, that's the last part, in that case, it's added to the job also, so you can see it in the dashboard, and I know that there an exception occurred during your processing. And running the job is nothing more than a little bit of reflection. And thanks to Josh, we worked together in Christmas holidays to make it also work in Spring Native mode. So that means that when you depend on JobRunner Spring Native, all your requests and request handlers will automatically be marked as ready for reflection, and the Graal VM will know it and can use it. And then we're done. Either the job succeeded, yay, or it failed, not yay. So that's it. Are there already any questions regarding this part? Because perhaps it's already interesting to do some questions about this now. Yeah?
We've been using Chrome-like tools for at least 10 years. I tried to look for something like this 5 or 6 years ago, and the answer in Google was nothing. Why it's been so long to get something like this working?
Sorry?
Why it's been so long to get something like this working?
I agree completely. That's why I created it. Yeah, another question? By the way, perhaps to add on to that, it's now 2 years old, so
it's looking very nice. Thank you very much. We are using sometimes quads for some reason, but it's not that good. What I see here. The question is, can I orchestrate multiple jobs? So, for example, let 2 jobs run, and then the third one is running with the results of the first 2, stuff like that.
I'll get back to that later on if you're okay with that. Okay. Other questions still after the Q&A? I was hoping for some really internal questions. All right. And then, JobRunner today. What I know, and it's difficult with open source, it's used for medical image processing, web crawling, but gigantic web crawling, order fulfillment, document generation, e-procurement, service desk automations. It has about 30,000 downloads per month from Maven Central. I still can't believe. And how many jobs have been processed in total, I don't know. If you're using the 5.1 version of JobRunner, you can opt in to share anonymous usage statistics, just because I'm interested in it and how many jobs are already have been processed with it. And then, this is open source. I spent 1.5 years already, a little bit full time working on it. And there is also an add-on, the Pro version, which has a dashboard where you can search automatic Springer transaction integration, queues, batch, job chaining, and that's your question that I think you're asking, where you can then create a complete workflow. And of that, the money that I make from it, I also spend 5% on planting trees, because I really care about the environment. And what will be coming up? Better Graal VM native support. I want to continue working on that together with Josh and the Spring Native team. Authentication, authorization, OpenID Connect for the dashboard, feature requests from you guys. Yeah. And then there's the actual Q&A session, and I'm well ahead schedule, so we will be doing some live programming also. But first, let's do questions, other questions. Yes.
Hello. My first question is JobRunner suitable for one-shot jobs?
Yes.
Or is most like a service, you see, like RabbitMQ, let's imagine?
No. Fire and forget jobs, like the .enqueue that I showed in the beginning, that's exactly what it meant. So historically, where I used it a lot is I had only 5 to 10 cron jobs. That was already a lot for me. But these 5 to 10 cron jobs, they monitor file system. And in that file system are files that generated millions of jobs then. So, and that's why the .enqueue is for.
Hey, hello. About distributing the job. What if you try to send? Is there any functionality that you can do some sort of lock to prevent double sending emails, for example? That you, for example, put a annotation. Okay, by the email of the customer, I want to prevent double processing in that stuff.
Yes, the mutex support. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so there is server tags and mutex, and again also, because I also have a question from you guys, for you guys itself. For me, it's really difficult to combine open source with my other work full time, and so it's difficult for me to decide: do I put features in the free version of the paying version? And there is a discussion now on GitHub going on. Feel free to input what you guys think on this, but the mutex, the difficult stuff, I tend to add to the pro version.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Thanks.
I know it. I think we're all spoiled, to be honest, as Java developers, that we have like Spring for free, and we have so many things for free. But yeah, it's a lot of my free time, personal family time going into it also. Yeah, there is 2 questions here. Yeah, the lady.
Hi, is there a way to monitor or be aware if something goes wrong, the jobs are not being handled?
Yeah, so there is the dashboard where you can follow up. And then I asked also the community whether it would make sense to integrate like notifications and stuff like that. But most of them apparently use Datadog or something like that, where you can then, using logging, they just log errors and
they monitor that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think there was one more question, and then two.
Okay, so just a quick one. So is it possible also to monitor the job during the runtime and, for instance, stop it or break it, or?
Yeah, that's part of the live coding even. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you then.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a question about what if you have a long-running job and you want to get updates, like sort of like, yeah, it's very, very, very similar to that one.
Yeah, that's the same question. So that's all available in the free version. What you can do, I'll show it in later on, but it uses SLF4G as logging. You just use almost existing SLF4G logging, and you see the long-running job. You can log, and it will, all the info and warn and error statements will automatically go to the dashboard also. So it updates real time. Okay, the last question, because otherwise you guys won't be seeing me live programming. And this is a mob preparing session, so if I fail, we all fail.
Hi, the question is, what happens if a job stays in processing state for too long? Like it failed, but you've failed to mark it as failed.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, JobRunner by default has a master server, and the master server is the one that schedules all the recurring jobs, the scheduled jobs. He does a little bit extra work. This master server if it crashes, it's not a big problem. The other servers monitor whether there is a master available, and if not, it automatically takes over, or one of the other servers takes over. For the job processing, though, it's the same. Every job is being in the database. There is a timestamp updated every 15 seconds. That way, we know that the job is still working and updated. The moment that a job, because servers can die, let's be realistic, we're all it's cloud native, we're running everything on Kubernetes these days. If one of the job servers dies in the middle of processing a job, it won't be updating that job, the timestamp anymore. And in that case, the master node sees, hey, something is off there, and it will automatically put the job then to failed, and another server can then take over.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, one more. I find it difficult to say no. I'll already open IntelliJ.
Hi, thanks. What about the parameters for the jobs? Is there any abstraction layer about it, and how to source it, how to manage it, especially if the jobs are really different types?
Well, the parameters just go with the job inside the database. And on the website, I have a best practices page. Because let's say that you need to send an email for a customer, and your customer is the aggregate root. It contains all the data that's possible. What I don't recommend is using that customer, that complete object, and saving that complete object as a parameter to the database. Try to make your arguments as small as possible. Use the customer ID in this case, and fetch it inside your job. The reason for it is this will all go to the database. Your database will grow a lot, and that's why I recommend to make the jobs the parameters as small as possible. But thanks. I don't know whether I answered your question, to be honest.
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Yeah. Any parameter that you pass, what JobRunner does is, internally, it creates a job details object, and that job details object has all the parameters, and if it can be serialized with either Jackson, JSON, or any other library, you're set to go. All right. Thanks. All right. Time to eat my own dog food. Do you guys know Uptime Robot? Uptime Robot? No? It's a service where you can register a website, a URL, and the moment that the website goes down, it notifies you, an email, stuff like that. Something simple, but can come in handy because we want to have our stuff up and running. So in this case, I'm going to try to create an Uptime Robot clone. So is everything readable, or is it difficult? I didn't understand that, to be honest. Difficult, okay. I heard that I should be upgrading soon to Java 17, but for the moment I'm still on 11, to be honest. All right. What do we want? We want Spring Web. Afterwards, I'll try to go to presenter mode, and then you guys can follow along. So I want Spring Web. I want Spring Data JDBC. Let's try JDBC. What else do we need? I want to send mails in case that something goes off. Great. All right, so now I have a simple project with some dependencies already set up for Spring. And I want to, let's go to presenter mode. Yeah, and this is the stress now talking. I need actions. We need 2 more dependencies. I want to have JobRunr itself. And I want to have the latest and greatest, 5.1.2. And I need another dependency. I want to have Postgres. Please autocomplete for me. No. Does anybody know because I did it with the IntelliJ find my dependency thing. Does anybody know it by heart? This is a mob session, I told you guys. Huh? Sorry? Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Command P. 4.3. All right. Is it Spring managed? I don't know. All right. Let me quickly, because this is I didn't practice with presentation modes. I'll go to it directly. So, I want a new service in this case. Service, and let's call it website monitor service. Okay, what does this need? We want to send mails, so I say and then our actual method, public void check website. Our input, any IDs? Come on. So what I will do, I will fetch the content of some website. I want to make sure that it contains some text to make sure that it's not a 404 returning. And then I want to notify somebody. And to make this a little bit faster, you see all the practices I did. I didn't tell me if I'm not in presenter mode. Huh? I'll copy some stuff and I'll explain it. Because otherwise I won't make the time box, I'm afraid. So I'm rather old school, and I went for yeah, presentation mode. Yeah, I'm going to presentation mode. Who knows the shortcut? Yeah. So, what I did here, we have a mail center. We want to check a website, and then, yeah, of course, it complains. In this case, if the URL is wrong, okay, I don't care about all of this. I want JobRunr to all handle this, so I just throw exception. And then we want to send a mail when the website is down. Let's generate a method. And I'll live code this then. We create a simple mail message. This new simple mail message. And then we say message.from. This is from me, myself, and I. Then we do the to. And this is input that we get. Then we set the message, set subject, website is down. That's also URL. And last but not least, we set the text. We put in some sarcasm. Is done. Have a great day. Always funny to have some sarcasm in there. And then mail sender, we send the actual message. Send message. All right. I think that this is already good enough. Now Let's create a new class. And I'll go back to presentation mode directly. Let's create a new class where we can register our job, our things that we wanted to monitor. So Uptime Robot API, let's call it like this. Enter presentation mode. Thank you, IntelliJ, finally. So this is a REST controller, of course. We want to have a method, and I'm going to make my life easy and have a get method. Its value is monitor website, public void monitor. And then we have a request param, and that's a URL. Then another request param, the string text it must contain. And last but not least, another request param, which is who I want to notify. All right, what do we now need? We need two things. We need the job scheduler. And I need to refresh my Maven dependencies because I added the dependencies, but it didn't refresh yet. Yeah, that's better. Let me go back to presentation mode. 5 more minutes, come on. And we also need our website monitor service. And we need a constructor to have the both of them. And now, the magic. Job scheduler dot schedule recurrently. And let's make it nice. Let's say I want to, as the ID of this job, this recurring job, I want to have the host name in this case. So I do new URI. The URL I pass in, I need to get host. I assign this to a variable. This will be the ID. You don't need to give an ID, but in this case, then we can override it if we want the job later on. Add exception to signature, we know early on. Then we need to say how many times we want to run this. So let's do cron dot every 5 minutes. So at least we will know rather soon. And finally, we want to schedule the actual job, website monitor service, .check website, URL, text to contain, who to notify. Et voila. That should be it. But because of lack of time, I will now go to my solution. And then I won't fail epically because I know this one works. And what I have done here, let me check whether this is, let me go to the tree then. Yeah. Here, let's first start the dashboard, for example. All right, the dashboard is up and running. I need a browser. I already have a how do I'm new to Mac. Does anybody know how can I exit full screen mode? Escape, I already tried. We all, I should remember the shortcut. So, localhost 8000. We have the dashboard up and running, yes. But it says me, hey dude, there aren't any background jobs available. Yeah, that's correct. I only started the scheduler for the moment. So jobs will not be processed. All right. What I did then, I just created another run configuration. I'm starting exactly the same app. This could be on a different server. This could be on a different, I don't know what. Let's start it. All right, it's up and running. And automatically, JobRunner detected, hey, there is a server available. So if I click here, we see this one. Now, we want to create, we want to test some websites. So I took the liberty for all the sponsors and blah, blah, blah to test their website. So let's create some, use the API that we created with Spring to schedule all of these jobs. And I have now 24 websites that I will monitor every 5 minutes. And I see, because I'm using the cron thing, it will run 7 seconds from now. One more minute. Oh, it's going to be exact. Yeah. And voila, jobs are being scheduled, and they already succeeded. They're retrying. So here we see the one that are succeeded. And regarding the, oh, this is not supposed to happen. Regarding the logging, so what you can do, I'll show you inside the solution. You have your logger as a Left4j logger. You just wrap that with a JobRunner dashboard logger, and it will live update on the dashboard. So if you keep this open, and there is a video, if you don't believe me, there is a video on the website. I would be skeptical too. There is a video on the website, or you can try it out yourself, where you will see live updates of the logging that you do happening here. And you can also put in a progress bar. So that way, if it's a really long-running job, because that's why I created JobRunner, then you will see the progress bar nicely go forward. Any questions? Because this is now finished, the demo is finished, okay. One thing that I found out recently through guys using JobRunner, they were really thankful because they had a 20% developer productivity increase, and for a reason that I could not think of. They handed the dashboard to their first-line support, and because of the requeue button that is in there, often the problem is solved with requeuing them, and they have a lot less interrupts and can continue working on. So, that was my talk. I hope you liked it.